Oh, good morning. My name's Todd Smith. I'm the VP of Partner Growth here at Fairtech. I'm joined by Chris Carr, CEO of Fairtech, and today we are going to talk websites. So, Chris, we wrote a blog. Let me pull it up real quick. It is Websites Can Be Made Great with These 4 Essentials. And I think what's kind of funny about that is, as I read the case study, I think we might need to change that headline. What do you think?
I know. We're doing the prep session. I was like, I don't see 4 essentials here. I see like 9 essentials.
There's like 9, yeah. I think 4 is just like a nice round number. Yeah.
So let me tell you how this got off the rails. Most of the time what I do is I talk about what happens in the SEO world is you optimize content and then you monitor the success of the content. And then as it decays, you keep adding more and more to the blog to keep it current. I think when we started writing to it, we just forgot that there's 4.
So basically the blog grew, but the headline stayed the same.
Yeah. If you read this blog 2 years ago,
it'd be perfect.
Exactly. You have 4.
Perfect. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is, you ever hear the expression that you never get a chance to make a good first impression?
Yes.
Right. So when I look at somebody's website, one of the things that, I mean, like for most people, like that's 90% of the time you look at their website, you got like 5, maybe 10 seconds to go, I've captured this person's attention. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a problem. It's definitely a problem. I mean, I think you got content overload. I think you got ADD. We have tested everything. And I know it sounds really weird, but I'm going to show you an example real quick. Let me see if I can share my screen. Give me 1 second here. So we have a website here called ProWriters. Tried everything with ProWriters. ProWriters had a long website, the whole 9. When we made the video, so first off, we made a video because we wanted to keep them on the page longer. We wanted them to get a very quick understanding of who we are, who we are, who they are, and what they do. A lot of the critical things, but mostly we want to kind of talk about their unique selling proposition and how they solve problems for, some really great companies that are looking to find insurance providers for cyber. Anyhow, we made this video as big and obnoxious as we could. And
it's pretty big.
Totally exploded. And so now it's one of those things is that we go and we make these big, sexy websites. And then I'm like, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to ask you to put something big and obnoxious right dead center.
Right. Gotcha.
And so there used to be a book called, I think we're back here. Let me see if I can go back to this. It was by Nielsen Krug. It said, Don't Make Me Think.
Right.
And essentially, like the book kind of says it all. It's like, you know what? I don't really want to be in a scenario where I'm making users think
too much.
Yeah, exactly. I only got 8 seconds of their time, 5 seconds of their time. So let's just spoon feed them with a video. And other things that happen in the emotional experience of a video is a video, whether it was filmed quickly or whether it was filmed at a high production value, people thought about what was going into the video. They thought about the essentials. They didn't get caught up in the minutia commonly.
Right.
You're being spoon fed something. And so that's why I believe in so much in video. And I also believe that it should be right front and center. Gotcha.
Hey, the other thing I noticed looking at that ProWriters website is that there's a lot of white space. Like, what's your thought on that? In terms of white space.
Yep.
Because we're in such a like social media image heavy like type of environment. But then I come to a website like ProWriters and I'm almost refreshed just because it's not super photo intensive. There's a lot of white space, clear headline, clear definition of company. Like how are you seeing that played out with customers?
Well, the challenge you have here is that it was designed and then redesigned and then redesigned. I'm not saying we overhauled the website, but what we do is we do A/B testing and multivariant testing and things like that. But because it looks simple, Steve Jobs used to say simple is hard. And what we did was we have websites and they look a little bit too claustrophobic. And then we start to peel back the onion and we start to try to figure out what is sort of happening, what's making things work. And I'm going to go probably even into this video today and talk to you about something called usability conversion analysis. And that allows us to really kind of hone in where people's eye movements and mouse movements are going.
Okay.
And so the white space was actually intentional. The account manager for ProWriters, there's been 2 of them, really smart, really great at their craft. And them and between those two and our director of web development and the gentleman named Brian Nowakowski, they measure the small stuff, and that's where those type of things come out.
Okay, so now that's interesting because you said the word measure, and whenever I think measure and I think marketing dollars, I think ROI. So if we take a little bit of a step back here and we go, how does somebody justify ROI from a website? Just because it's one of those things that I know what I have, I know that it might be working for me, but I don't know if I necessarily want to spend $15,000, $20,000, $50,000 on a new website. How do you work with customers on helping them see the ROI of a website?
Well, this is going to sound kind of ridiculous, but don't spend that kind of money if you're not serious and don't know.
Okay.
If you are going to make that investment right out of the jump, and you are just you're building a website just to build one,
right?
Don't make that kind of investment. If you know that you need to win, and that there's going to be some art and some science based upon this, that investment should be the salesperson that's up 24 hours a day, never gets sick, they're 365.
Right.
That's the kind of website that you want. But other things that you want to be able to do is you got to know your own data as well. And so what I mean by that is I'm not talking about just general Google Analytics that you're going to check maybe once a quarter. I'm talking about literally, if your company cannot honestly say that you don't make data-driven decisions, then it's almost like sometimes I'm like, why even bother having a website? Why bother having marketing?
Right.
Because you know what? It's almost like throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping something sticks.
Right. So a website really isn't necessarily a nice to have. It's kind of like a need to have, based on, like data and analysis.
But, and I don't want to get too tied up from an ROI standpoint and say something like all websites have to have an ROI.
Right.
What I've experienced is there's certain businesses that have a website just to validate themselves.
Okay.
Like, for example, say you're working with a company in the Fortune 500, right? Like we were talking with an organization, they were over in London and they were going to be doing, I think it was like mergers and acquisitions and stuff like that. Nobody comes to that website and says, hey, you know what? Where's the buy now button? But this guy had so much clout and he was such a thought leader that people just came to his website to learn things, to validate that he is a very real company and things like that. And I think step number one is trying to figure out what are my goals? Because if it's just for validation only, you do not have to dump, a ton of money into that website. You just need to have something that clearly communicates who you are, that you're real, how to communicate. Like I recommend, even if you're just validating, that you should have a blog where you're establishing thought leadership.
Okay.
But the latter group is the group I really want to talk about. And the latter group, what I'm trying to say from an ROI perspective, and let me kind of share my screen for this as well. Give me 1 second here. So let me just try to figure out how to do this. So if I go here and give me 1 second here. I'm going to just share my screen one more time, and Chrome window is going to go to here. All right. So most companies, when we're talking about ROI, they usually go into things like SEO and things like that. And so with SEO, commonly what you're going to see here is you're going to see people that are looking for certain keywords. And then we're going to try to figure out how many of those keywords can we get either on the first page of Google or, more importantly, number one on page one of Google. But I'm going to fly through some of these other things that are in Google Analytics. So this is one of our clients. We brag about this client all the time. We had this is just their blog. We had super aggressive growth goals. And we hit them pretty well. We grew their entrances from about 63,000 to about 1 million. And then the page views, we increased by, almost tenfold, by 1,132%. But what got really cool from an ROI perspective is when we take a 2-year subset of that, they were able to get 2,911 conversions. That this was an orthopedics practice, and they multiplied it by $300. That was their cost of their first time, appointment. And so what happens here is that turned into $873,000 worth of revenue just from their blog.
Good blog, right?
And then what you also looked at is their whole site grew by 38%. And then we also measured the conversions there.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say here is when you're looking at ROI, what you saw in the analytics was not hey, we're a marketing company. We're going to get people to the first page of Google. And people are like, well, did they convert? I'm like, well, that's not my problem. All right. I'm an SEO company.
Right.
I just have to get.
I got them there. So we're done.
My job is done. Where we try to say, when you're looking at ROI your website, I literally try to tie a dollar value to certain parts of the conversion experience, such as filling out a form to schedule an appointment. There should be a dollar value for that.
Right.
Even if the doctor never creates a $10,000 or $11,000 to $20,000 surgery, we do get credit for about $300 worth of people coming to the door. And I think
that first appointment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
The other thing you talked about there, and you just touched on it briefly, but how important, when you're building a website is, scaling it for SEO.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really important. If you're in that latter category where I'm saying, you know what, your website is designed to show ROI, then almost the number one way to generate leads, there's a couple different ways, but I'm going to go over the big ones. Obviously there's SEO. Mm-hmm. Then there's paid advertising. And what I mean by that, I also mean paid social. You can email blast your way to traffic as well, assuming you got a segmented list and stuff like that. And then, there's some other ways too. That's referral traffic, some podcast, other things like that.
Gotcha.
But almost every single time, I've been doing this for about 19 years, organic traffic wins the day the large majority of the time.
Okay. What about another facet you didn't mention was local SEO?
Yeah.
Like, do you see that as part of the equation as well?
Well, really, with local SEO, we're going to try to figure out what your goals are. Like if I'm a pizza shop or a plumber and I only have a certain
geographic area,
yep. Yes, by all means. Okay. And you'd be shocked at how many people that there's low hanging fruit for low SEO and they do none of it. And I'm not talking about Joe the plumber. I'm talking about healthcare practices that see thousands of patients a day.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's right there for the taking, but I think that the science of it can get confusing. And so they think, well, Google's going to do what Google does. And I'm in that feedback. Yeah. And we'll just deal with it.
Gotcha. Okay. And something you said really early in this talk that I wanted to hit on, you said 3 words that kind of most people don't usually put together. Usability, conversion analysis. That sounds like a lot of technical talk, but can you just break that down for us real quick, just so you can make it clear to the audience?
Yeah, let me do that real quick. When I'm doing that, what I'm looking here for is, and Todd, confirm that you can see my screen here.
Oh, I see it. Yep, we're good.
Okay, great. So with usability conversion analysis, one of the things that I want to be able to do is look to see how are people engaging with my website. And so where a lot of people will say, yeah, I've seen heat mapping technology before. What we want to be able to do is be in a scenario here where you have heat mapping technology, but I want to be able to see where people's eye movements and mouse movements are going. And I hear a lot of the time, well, how do you know their eye movements? I'm like 90% of the time their eye movements follow their mouse.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So with these guys, they assumed that everyone was going to the orthopedic specialties page. Turns out that they were going to the services page. They spent a ton of money on these ambassador videos. And it turns out that, you see no heat on that button. Gotcha. Other things we do is we're looking to figure out, are they scrolling? What is the white hot part of the website? And then from this standpoint, what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to say, hey, you know what? If I have to schedule to make an appointment, I want to make sure that it's in the white hot part of the website.
Gotcha.
Now this one's close, but about 15% of the audience isn't scrolling down far enough.
Gotcha. Okay.
Other things we're going to do is that video is important. Only when people were looking at this website, I mean, keep in mind that this website looks drastically different now, but only 45% of the audience was even scrolling down far enough.
Right.
Doing the same testing in mobile. Yep. I'm going to look at every click over a variety of different filters, such as new and returning visitors, things like that. Search engine, what time of day, how long did it take them to click? I'm going to look at everything from did they convert and what are the other pages that lead to the conversion paths? This shows in real time the mouse movement on the screen to make sure I know what's confusing and what's not. I'm going to figure out what pages are converting and what attribution pages need to be added. I can literally find out when people fill out a form, where did they get spooked and leave early? And then from a video perspective, I can find out, are my videos too long? Where are people abandoning the video? And then from there, I can allow them to opt in.
Yep.
And then this allows me, it's a very unique thing, is that I'm able to find out, hey, you know what? this is by name, Oliver and Tim. Oliver watched 98% of the video and Tim only watched 59%.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'm going to drip market to Tim very differently.
All right. So basically, to summarize that portion of it, like usability conversion analysis is basically a larger picture for how we analyze a website to see how people are using it, and then to see how leads are basically being converted through the site.
That's 1,000% correct. Now, I mean, I think one of the things you want to do is that most people create a site and they set it and they forget it, and the happiest day of their life was the day they launched it.
Okay.
But if you figure that when you launch a website, that's the beginning of the journey and not the end of the journey, that's when it becomes real.
Awesome. And that leads me to my next point, because the one thing I want you to talk about now is just that buyer's journey. So as somebody comes to a site, they're in different stages of the buyer's journey. So can you just take us through that real quick?
Sure. I think one of the things that you want to think is that when you have a car buying experience, I have a whole slide for this, but I don't really feel like I need to show it.
Yep.
What I'm looking to do with the car buying experience is be in a scenario where you don't buy the first car on the first lot that you see. You know what I mean? You go, and in the beginning stage, you might say, hey, I need a new car because either my car broke down or I wanted something new.
Right.
And something in your brain says, hey, if I'm going to get a new car, do I want a sedan, an SUV, or a sports car? And then once you say, hey, you know what? I think I want an SUV, that in the decision stage allows you to figure out what make, model, and color, et cetera, right?
Gotcha.
So all this stuff, but nothing in your brain says, hey, I'm in the consideration stage of this process. All right. But good marketers will know that, and they're going to write content for each part of the buyer's journey. What I find is I work with a lot of companies and they say, this is who we are. This is what we do. This is our product. Buy now. And it's just like, when I look at your sitemap, I can tell right away whether you have any lead nurturing. And if you don't have any lead nurturing, you are letting a ton of people sort of just walk across your driveway or walk across your yard, and you never knew they were there.
Gotcha. So from a marketing perspective, you've got awareness, consideration, and decision, right? And then content's written based on those 3 stages.
That's
for
correct.
The buyer through their journey. Okay.
Because you're not going to say in the awareness stage, you're not going to say the price of this car is $30,000, but you are going to say, you know what? This is the benefits of having an SUV. This is the gas mileage, and this is how technology has changed things.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what I mean? Yep.
Cool. And then the last thing I want to hit on before we wrap up is in the blog that we referenced, we're talking about today, you have an acronym, QUASI.
Yep.
Can you just run that through that real quick? Because that was kind of interesting to me.
Yeah. So I stole this from a client.
Borrowed.
10 years ago, borrowed. It was called Questions with Answers and Simple Information.
Okay.
And so what I mean by that is that when you think about what Google is, it's just kind of a query of, hey, I've got a problem. What can I do to find out about a solution about it? Or I've got an interest. What can you tell me about it? Well, we need to basically know that that's the intent of most web visitors. And so what I want to be able to do is, let's say hypothetically people come to Faratech's website.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that they can find quick and simple answers. So the way I kind of develop my content is with questions. I write all my content based upon the critical questions people actually ask, with answers, which basically means I'm going to give you a short version to just answer your question. And then I'm going to give you simple information like videos and infographics and things like that. Because not everybody wants the whole Bible, but some of them do want a couple chapters.
Gotcha.
And so what I find is that if you build a website and you just overload them with content right from the jump, they bounce.
Too much overload. Okay, cool. So basically there's a simplification for how we deliver content. And then just basically keeping it simple, basically keeping enough information so that there's an opportunity for a conversation, to basically get deeper into what their needs are.
That's right.
Okay, cool. Right. Well, Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate this. This was very, very helpful. Just wanted to talk to the audience briefly. If you're considering a new website, if you'd like to talk to Chris and myself, a lot of times we offer a free consultation, but mostly what you're going to get is you're going to get some really valuable information about your company. We do a lot of research before the call, and we're going to help you out with some information to help you either make a decision to go with us or go with somebody else. So please get in touch with us, and we'd love to have a free consultation and just take a little dive just to see if we can help you and see what you possibly might need. Anything you want to add, Chris?
Yeah, let's. If you are a new visitor, make sure that you subscribe below. That's going to be critical for us to kind of give you these type of videos as often as they come out. You can click on the notifications, and we'll try to get those to you as well. We're also going to ask you to subscribe to our newsletter, because it's our job to keep you informed, whether you're going to use this or not. We want to make sure that you kind of land in the right place.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time today.
Got it.